The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
You are now logged into WarUp on the WPIAL, featuring your hosts, Greg Warnock and Jeff Upson. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
Welcome into a brand new edition of WarUp on the WPIAL. Greg Warnock alongside Jeff Upson, recapping the AA WPIAL championships getting set for the Southwest Regional this weekend, and also AAA sections all coming up. Also have Christian Clutter of McGuffey joining us on the show. He's got a couple big weeks of matches coming up. He dominated in the WPIAL, but he's got a couple big weeks coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. If he wants to get on top of the podium and in the Giant Center, he's going to have to go through probably a guy named Jared McGill, who he wrestled in the Power 8 finals. Tight match, so we'll see where both these wrestlers are at now. I think both of them are going to look a lot different than they did in late December. But as you said, Christian had a really good section in WPIAL Tournament, so it should be a lot of fun.
Let's go ahead and start the recapping off at 106 pounds. Joey Fisher of South Park remains undefeated at 31-0. He wins the title. Luke Gabig of Mount Pleasant in second. Not a lot of surprises here at 106. Fisher 1, Gabig 2, Case Sabidra of Derry 3.
Yeah, I didn't think there was many surprises here. I was curious to see how Joey would do against some of these guys like Gabig and Sabidra, and he did everything he needed to do. He got a 10-0 major in the semis and a 7-0 win in the finals.
He goes on to the Southwest region as your top seed. Kai Burkett of Chestnut Ridge, his toughest challenge. How many WPIAL guys do you see potentially making out at 106?
Obviously you like Joey Fisher, and I think this is a guy who's going to be one of the favorites here. But you can't discount a guy named Suds Dubler from Glendale. He's a guy who's 35-1. He's a freshman out of District 6. Had some really good wins under his belt. In fact, he won a pretty stacked, in my opinion, District 6 tournament. Bryce Beatty was there as well from Mount Union. So I think if you look at realistically, Joey Fisher is definitely a guy who I think gets through. Luke Gabig, he's going to have a tough road, I think, depending on his first round is even tough with Nathan Polisky from North Star. So Luke Gabig, I think, is a guy who should be able to find a way through. But outside of them, Case Sabidra, he could, but it's going to be tough because District 6 is so strong. And same with District 5. Kai Burkett is really tough, and I think he and Suds Dubler are most likely going to meet in the semifinals. So I think it's going to be tough for the WPIAL to get any more than 3 here into the state tournament.
113 pounds, Ryan Michaels of Elizabeth Forward pins his way through the WPIAL championships. He actually wrestled Nick Salerno on Friday night in the section championships and beat him 7-1, so beats him back-to-back weeks. Salerno had a good tournament. He knocks off Justin Ritchie of Quaker Valley and then beats Nate Yeagle of McGuffey in the semifinals to make it to the final. So a good showing for Salerno, I thought. He was pretty dominant getting to the final.
Yeah, he was, and look at what Ryan Michaels did to him, right? So while Salerno was absolutely impressive, look at how impressive Ryan Michaels has been. I am so high on him. I've said this from the start of the season here. He's had such a tremendous season. I don't know what he's been doing in the offseason, but whatever he's doing, it's working because he's 32-1 on the season. He's got to be leading or close to leading the WPIAL in pins. I mean, he pins everybody he wrestles. So he's dangerous. I like him a lot. I'm really anxious to see what he does in the region.
At 113 pounds, Ryan Michaels is your top seed. And number 2, Jackson Arrington, the top freshman, one of the top freshmen coming in on the year. And Nate Holderbaum also there as well. So a lot of strong district efforts. Obviously, Ryan Michaels will likely advance to the state tournament. But do you like Nick Salerno, Nate Yeagle, their chances as well?
Yeah, I do. I actually do here. And you look at, there is some depth here from District 6. But, Jackson Arrington's the cream of the crop there. He's a guy we're very familiar with. In fact, Greg, we both saw him at the Surge tournament before the season started. And, Jackson's a guy who I think is going to get the job done on the bottom half. But I wouldn't throw out Salerno, even Yeagle, right? And I think that those guys can sneak through for sure. And Justin Ritchie can wrestle. Elias Ward can wrestle. Those are guys that I think can compete. So I wouldn't be surprised to see 4 guys from the WPIAL make it to the state tournament.
120 pounds, Ian Oswald Burrow. He ends up winning the title. Jimmy Guire, best center. We wonder how he would do, and he actually does pretty well. Beats Dylan Bruce of Elizabeth Forward in the quarters, 8-5, and beats Noah Teeters of Mount Pleasant, 5-2 in the semi. Teeters third, Alberts fourth, and Dylan Bruce, just because of the way the bracket fell, ends up falling in 7th place. But Oswald winning here, not a surprise. Guire, though, giving him, he didn't really, I think he stalled a lot in that match, to be honest with you. Guire did. But still, he wrestled tough.
Yeah, I mean, 1-0 decision. I get it. You can do some things to slow down a match and whatnot, but at the same time, Ian Oswald he's a guy who he's been in a lot of tight matches. He's had tight matches with Curtis Phipps this year. He's had tight matches at the King of the Mountain with Will Betancourt. So he's a guy who I think is comfortable in that position. So I don't think he was ever in serious trouble. But I was impressed with the way he was able to come out and get that win. But also with Jimmy Guire to even get there, to beat Noah Teeter like that, and Dylan Bruce as well. So Guire had a good showing for himself.
Oswald, the top seed at 120 pounds and likely to get into the final. But any other guys at 120 being able to get to Hershey?
From the WPIAL, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Jimmy Guire has a definite shot there. I think. Outside of Oswald, I think Jimmy Guire, Noah Teeter absolutely has a shot. But that bottom half is pretty tough. You got Eli Brewer from North Star. You also have Eamon Ole from St. Joe's Academy. Unfortunately, Dylan Bruce is kind of down there in that bottom half with Eamon Ole in that first round matchup. But I think a guy like Jake Alberts can scrap with Baylor Shunk in that first round. But outside of Oswald, I'm not comfortable saying that they're definitely going to get, I would say two or three here through.
Yeah, Albert's getting a tough draw with Shunk and then Bruce as well with Ole, so definitely a tough draw for some of WPIAL's tough guys. 126, the champion Tyler Simmerman, he beats Jet Pattison. Pattison have a tough one with ZJ Ward. He beat him in the ultimate tiebreaker in the semis. So Tyler Simmerman winning it all here.
Yeah, and I kind of maybe overlooked Jet Pattison a little bit on this one. I thought for sure we'd be a Ty Simmerman, ZJ Ward final, but Jet Pattison says not so fast, and he's pretty solid in himself, right? 30-6 as a senior, obviously outlasts ZJ Ward in the ultimate tiebreaker, and then Simmerman does what he does best. He was able to get to his offense and get the points on the board for an 8-3 win. So strong showing by the WPIAL here, I think.
Simmerman comes in as the number 2 seed of the Southwest region. Brock McMillan of Glendale, your number 1. So Pattison and ZJ Ward both on the top half of the bracket. McMillan's going to have a tough draw with the WPIAL guys. He's going to have Ward potentially in the quarters, Pattison potentially in the semis, and potentially Simmerman in the final.
Yeah, I mean, Brock McMillan's a guy who I think's up for that challenge. I mean, he's a returning state finalist. He's been in the big show before, so he's a guy I don't think is going to shy away from any of that type of competition. I think you'd be looking forward to wrestling Trent Vlauchek right off the bat, and then possibly ZJ Ward and Jet Pattison. So while I think that's a tough road for him, I think he's up for that challenge. And I think on the bottom half, Ty Simmerman's going to have his hands full with some guys. Brian Daubert down there, Chase Proudfit from Penn Cranberry, who was second, and Brady Villa from Tussey Mountain. But the WPIAL is going to, I think they're going to do well here. I think the top 3 are more than capable of going to the state tournament and doing well at the state tournament, to tell you the truth. With Simmerman and Jet Pattison and ZJ Ward, I think those 3 are definitely capable of getting through. Outside shot with maybe Damon George, but the top 3 are pretty strong here.
Yeah, and Damon George and Trent Vlauchek went back and forth. Vlauchek beat him in the section, and then George beat him at the WPIAL tournament the next day. 132, Connor Redinger was your champion. 3 falls to win it all here. He was dominant, and he ends up getting a top seed at 132, which is a stacked weight at 132.
Oh, my gosh. We were talking about this offline, and I was talking to this with Eric Knopfsnyder about how loaded 132 really is in the Southwest region. But you look at the WPIAL tournament. I talked about Ryan Michaels from Elizabeth Forward and how strong he has been this season, pinning his way. Connor Redinger also equally as strong here this season, and especially at this tournament, getting 3 falls en route to the championship, including two over some quality guys with Brian Gohl and Jason Baker. I thought Jason Baker had a great tournament coming in here, beating Donovan Chambers in a tight 4-3 match. So Jason Baker, and there was just a great article on him and how he's winning off the mat as he's, having a fight against cancer and winning that fight against cancer. So you got to like that story. But, man, when you look at that Southwest region at 132, it's stacked. I mean, it's probably one of the deepest weight classes in the state and in a region.
Is Redinger fortunate to be the top seed over Whitmer and Cassidy? For
sure. I think, he's – I mean, I would say fortunate. It doesn't really matter where you're at in this bracket. You're going to have problems. He's on the same side as Garrett Cornell from Everett, who's going back and forth with Caden Cassidy. So – and he's also on the same side as Clayton Royer from Penns Valley. He's fortunate to be the top. I would rather be on that side away from Caden Cassidy and Zach Whitmer, because I think Zach Whitmer and Caden Cassidy could have potentially been maybe a finals match. But yeah, he's fortunate to be there. This is a really deep weight class. I mean, you look at the top guys here. I mean, I haven't looked at the updated state AA rankings this week, but man, I think almost every guy here is ranked in the state. So it's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough for the WPIAL to get more than one potentially. Have Redinger likely to go. Jason Baker potentially. He might slide in as a fifth or sixth.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jason Baker in his first match against Mangus from Richland. I also like Chambers in his first match with Wine. So I think if those two can get some good wins under the belt, if Jason Baker wins, he's going to likely see Caden Cassidy. So he's going to have to battle back to get on to the top six here. So I think that I think it's possible. I just think it's going to be tough for them.
Jacob Ely of Hopewell was your WPIAL champion at 138 and also the outstanding wrestler of the tournament. And he does so with a major decision win over A.J. Corrado of Burrell in the final, 11-0. Corrado beat Kenny Dushek of Freedom 8-2 in the semi, so they finished 1-2-3.
When I saw this, I had to look back because I thought it was I didn't believe it was 11. I thought it was 1-0, and I thought maybe it was a typo. And I looked back, wow. Major decision, 11-0. Jacob Ely, I mean, we had him on the show. We talked to him. I mean, the kid's a stud. He said I look forward to wrestling these guys, this kind of competition here. I'm just really impressed with the way he's wrestling. He's peaking at the right time. He gets 2 falls and they're out to the finals in the first period, and then just mops the floor with A.J. Corrado. A really, really tough A.J. Corrado. Like, this is not just some guy. A.J. Corrado is a state medalist who probably is going to likely finish on top of the podium or somewhere on the podium again this year. So that just really shows you how improved Jacob Ely's been throughout this season. So really good performance. He deserved that OW award for sure.
And he ends up the top seed at 138. He's going to have a tough one with Eric Gibson of Forest Hills, another freshman phenom coming in. But you got to like Corrado and Dushek's chances of getting to Hershey. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, like I said about Corrado, like, not only do I expect him to make it to Hershey, I expect him to come away with some hardware. You look at Jacob Ely, and for as good he was, he's got kind of a tough draw on the top half a little bit, because he has Ethan Kelly from Westmont Hilltop, who had a not so good showing at the District 6 tournament. But remember, Ethan Kelly beat AJ Corrado at the dual team tournament when Westmont Hilltop wrestled Burrell. So he's more than capable of keeping it close, and I mean, he's very good. Malachi Duval from Penns Valley is a guy who upset Kelly at District 6, so he's up there on that top half as well. And Clayton Lee from Berlin is also a guy I wouldn't necessarily look across, but Jacob Ely, I expect him to make it to finals. And on that bottom half, man, Eric Gibson's just a stud freshman. We saw him at the Surge. He won that tournament at 145. But Kenny Dushek is no joke, and A.J. Corrado is no joke. I would not be surprised if we saw an all-WPIAL semifinal. So Gibson, remember, he's a freshman. This is the first time in that big sort of environment.
145 pounds, John Rocco Cazales of Quaker Valley, dominant in his way to a championship. He ends up getting the number 3 seed as Caleb Dowling and Tristan Pugh both 1-2 at 145.
Yeah, and for as good as he was in the WPIAL tournament, which he absolutely was, it's not the strongest of weights at the WPIAL for sure. When you look at the depth here, Shane Kemper is obviously a good wrestler, but you look at the depth here for the WPIAL, it's just not there at 145. Caleb Dowling is one of the top guys in the state for a reason. He was a state runner-up last year to Cole Matthews. Tristan Pugh's another one. I like him a lot. I got to see a lot of him wrestle. I really expect him and John Rocco Cazales to meet in the semifinals, but I think John Rocco has a solid chance of getting through, and I think Shane Kemper is going to battle, but outside of that, I think it's going to be tough.
Yeah, definitely one of the weaker weights for the WPIAL. 152, another one of those a little bit weaker. Trent Schulteis gets 2 falls and a major decision to win the title here, but he does get the top seed at 152.
Yeah, and Schulteis, as you mentioned, had no real issues. Even wrestling Ethan Barr from McGuffey, who I think is a good wrestler. I wanted to see how he could hang with Schulteis, and Trent was able to do what he does best, and that's put, again, points on the scoreboard with a 9-1 major. And he's a returning state medalist. So let's not forget that, and that's gonna prove to be an advantage for him. But he's got a tough draw too. He's most likely going to see John Dale from Moshannon Valley in the quarterfinals, who is no easy out. He's a guy I really like, and he just got the poor end of a seed at the District 6 tournament. You got Keegan Rothrock from St. Joe's Academy also on that top half. So those two are they concern me a little bit for him. On that bottom half, though, Ethan Barr, I think he has a good shot to punch through here. So, but yeah, I'm very excited to see Trent Schulteis and see how he competes against these non-WPIAL wrestlers.
160 pounds, Thane Lawrence of Fraser. He was your champion. No surprise there. The big one, though, Patrick Cutchember defeats Austin Malee of Burrell by injury default. He was leading 4-3 with 10 seconds to go, but Malee ends up having the injury default out. He could barely walk on his ankle, and he ended up trying to go in the consolations, had to injury default in just 20 seconds, and ends up having to take 6th place. So the question is, what's going to happen with Austin Malee? Because he was a guy who would make the state tournament, potentially, and now he's not looking like the way he was looking on Saturday. It didn't look good.
Yeah, that's a real shame for him. I like Austin a lot. He was also another guy who wrestled in our Surge tournament. Got to talk to him a little bit there, and I think he's a good kid too. Josh Shields is always talking good about Austin. So when I saw that, not only did he injury default, but not having the ability to come back and compete, if he had a break between the District 7 tournament and the region tournament, I'd say he'd be in better shape. But instead, that break is between regionals and states. So it's going to be tough for him to come back, especially if he's not 100%. It's going to be it would be tough even if he was at 100%, but I can't imagine whatever percentage he's at, it's going to be even more difficult.
Yeah, especially the draw he has, too, because he's in the top half. He's got Seth Holderbaum with Chestnut Ridge in the opening round, and he's going to throw some Cole Sosong of Portage if he wins.
Yeah, again, it all depends on how healthy he is. I think he's definitely better than Seth Holderbaum on paper for sure, but if he's not healthy, Seth Holderbaum no doubt can beat him. I think if he can get that win in, and then see kind of how he feels against Sosong and if he's able to hang in that match. But, winning that first match is critical. If he doesn't win that first match, I can't see him, battling his way back, not on a bum leg. So it's going to be tough for him to definitely come through here.
Yeah, you got Thane Lawrence as the top seed, Patrick Cutchember on the bottom. He wrestled tough, though. He was going to win that match against Malee, so you got to like him here coming up this weekend against in the Southwest region. Yeah,
he's going to have some tough matches, though. I think his first round match is going to be a difficult one. Seth Link from Cambria Heights, a Link family goes back a long ways here, and I think Thane Lawrence is obviously the cream of the crop here, but Cutchamber, he's definitely not going to waltz into the semifinals.
170 pounds. We mentioned him, Christian Clutter of McGuffey. He is your champion, and 2 falls and a major decision to do it. A weaker weight here at 170 for the WPIAL as well. But the question is the matchup with Jared McGill and really Derek Brown of Penn Cambria too. He's got a couple of tough ones.
Yeah, for sure. He's down in that bottom half, as you mentioned, with Derek Brown from Penn Cambria, who's a stud in himself, and Jared McGill. Jared McGill's an undefeated wrestler, and I think he's wrestling a lot different than he was at Powerade. I think he's improved since Powerade, but obviously Christian Clutter has as well. I mean, I think the way he's been wrestling, and you saw it at the WPIAL tournament, just taking care of business against a guy like Noah Hutcherson. I think he was able to do really well there. And really, though, this is a tale of the two guys here, McGill and Clutter. While as though I believe that Brown's going to be difficult to get past, I still think Clutter. I was so impressed with him at Powerade, so I'm looking forward to talking to him about that possible rematch.
Speaking of Christian Clutter, he's ready to join us now on the show. Christian, thanks for joining us.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, you're fresh off of winning another WPIAL championship. How does this one feel compared to the others?
I mean, compared to others, I think they all feel the same. It just feels good to have a WPIAL championship under your belt. I mean, I think they all feel the same, to be honest with you.
You had no trouble in winning the WPIAL championship. Was it hard for you to take it one match at a time, knowing that you were the favorite going into each one?
That was definitely one thing. I was definitely looking forward a lot in this year more than other years. I guess looking forward, I realized I just had to take one step at a time. That's my coach kept telling me, just take one step at a time, and that's what I did. Just next opponent, and then just kept going through the tournament as that happened.
I know one thing your coach has mentioned a lot is they wanted to see you open up your offense more. Do you feel like you've been doing that more as you've been getting into the season and starting to get into the postseason?
Yeah, they always push for me to get the first takedown, that kind of stuff. I've been trying to get a little bit more offensive, but my whole entire life I've been a very defensive wrestler, so I try and try to be the first one to engage, but if not, then I'm very comfortable just being the one that has to react to what you do.
And Christian, talk a little bit about your season thus far. And, we were really impressed with you at the Powerade tournament. You took Jared McGill to overtime, and, that was a heck of a scramble there. I think I've watched that on Flow a few times at least, just to show some, fans to say, hey, look how good the scramble was. When you look back at your season, I mean, has that really prepared you for where you're at right now and the point where you're at in your season?
So, yeah, being with only 2 losses this season, one at the beginning of the year being that 182, and then obviously the next one being Jared McGill at Powerade. It's definitely, I feel like that my season's been going very well. McGill is definitely a competitive wrestler, and that's been definitely one of the matches that I have to look forward to this weekend and then in the States. But other than that, I feel like I've had a very solid season.
How many times have you watched that finals match from Powerade and just broke it down?
I watched it the week that it happened. I watched it back just to see, what I did wrong and why things did not go my way. So I watched it then. I haven't watched it yet since. I'm about to rewatch it probably this weekend to see what he does and what can go different between that match. Just because I don't want to dread on the past. So I really haven't watched it since then, but this weekend I'll see my regionals, so I'm definitely probably going to rewatch it and see what I have to do.
And as you mentioned that regional tournament, you haven't won that tournament yet. What's it going to take for you this season? Because I think you wrestled Derek Brown there last year, did you not?
Yeah.
Yep. Was it like a 1-0 or it was a close match, right?
It was I can't remember the score of that match,
but it was a tight match.
That was a close match,
right? And you got Derek's on that same side as you, and but I feel like you were so so much more improved for I think when you were last off season or last postseason to now. How's that has to factor into your mindset going into this with sort of some momentum?
So yeah, from last year's tournament regionals coming into this one. Last year, I definitely looked forward past Derek, so I don't want to look past him. I realize that McGill is a definite possible opponent, but then there's always the fact that I just want to focus on Derek, I want to focus on the first match, get past it, and then just move on. So, I mean, I'm going to prepare myself for Brown, prepare myself for McGill, just in case that those do happen, but I don't want to look too far ahead and then get myself caught up.
Right.
That's what I did last year, and that's what got me. So
you can kind
of learn with a different little mindset.
Learn from that experience from last year.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to learn from last year's experience there.
And speaking of last year was your first time at the PIAA State Tournament in the Giants Center. So, and you were able to come away with a fourth place medal, which was pretty impressive, right? So,
definitely caught fire at that tournament.
For sure. I mean, you definitely did catch fire, and I remember talking to your assistant coach, Jared Roberts, who I've known since when I was competing, and he said, man, when he gets on, he's on, and when he turns his offense on, he can really score points. And now that you've had that experience in Hershey, you've got to feel a lot more confident, a lot less shell-shocked when you walk into the Giants Center, right, and knowing that you've been there before.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, I know one thing, Christian, we talked about with your coaches before is, are you going to wrestle in college? Have you made a decision? I know you're a great football player as well. Have you thought about what you're thinking post-wrestling?
I've already actually decided what I was going to do, and I've already committed to a school. I committed to Seton Hill for football. I love wrestling and football a lot, but it just came down to what I thought was going to make me happier throughout the 4 years. And that's just the route that I took.
Would you be playing?
Hopefully it's the right one.
Would you be playing running back there for him?
Yeah, that's where I'm going there for. I'm going to play Seton Hill for running back.
Gotcha. What are you going to be studying?
Going decided. Figure it out from there. I've had a couple of things in the back of my head, engineering, criminology, but probably going to go safe and just go undecided.
Well, the good thing is, Christian, if you need to put your wrestling shoes back on, Seton Hill has a good program there, and they'll be more than happy
I know they do.
to have you roll around.
Contacted me several times. Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Hopefully it is the right decision, but if not,
you can
then I can always choose down the road. But right now, it feels like I've made the right decision.
When you look at the postseason, and this is something I like to ask, especially guys that compete in the Southwest, do you like having that week break between regions and states? I know some people don't like it, some people do like it. What do you prefer?
I'd rather just go right into it. I mean, the other week we had WPIAL Sections the day after. I mean, people complain about having a tournament the day after, but I mean, the quicker that I can get into a tournament and just I hate having to wait to just thinking about wrestling somewhere and having to think how I'm going to do. I'm just always ready to wrestle. So the week off, I mean, it's whatever is going to happen. But if it was my choice, I would wrestle states the next week after.
Well, Christian, we appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your evening to join us on the show, and best of luck as you head into the Southwest region.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks to Christian Clutter of McGuffey for joining us on the show. Let's get back to recapping the WPIAL Championships at 182. Dayton Pitzer of Mount Pleasant, he was your champion. He had a couple big wins. He beat Bryson Miller of Freedom 11-5 in the semi, and then beats Austin Wally of Elwood City 8-4 in the final. Miller actually had to injury default for third and fourth, so he ends up finishing in fourth place. But big showing for Dayton Pitzer. Yeah,
I mean, this was his real big first test. I mean, heck, he's a freshman, right? We sometimes forget the fact that the Mount Pleasant top guy in the state now, he's ranked number one in the state as a freshman at 182. I mean, when I was doing the top incoming freshman back in August, and I'm looking at Dayton Pitzer, while he was clearly a solid youth wrestler, but if you would have told me he would have been number one in the state and winning a WPIAL title, I probably would have said you were crazy, because Bryson Miller, Austin Wally, these guys are quality wrestlers, right? Austin Wally's 28-1 before that match with Pitzer, and he was able to come out and get to his offense and do well. So I think Pitzer's only improving as the season goes on. So it sets him up nicely here in the Southwest region as well.
Yeah, he gets the number 2 seed. Derek Yingling of West Branch is your number 1.
Yeah, Yingling's a guy who I'm a big fan of, the West Branch senior, 29-1 on the year. But I like Dayton Pitzer in that bottom half. I really do. I mean, I don't think Austin Krause can go with him. I think Austin Krause can compete with him, but Pitzer has already proved that he's above those certain level of wrestlers. So Pitzer, I mean, how far can he go, man? This would be a heck of a Cinderella story if he's able to come through and finish high at the state tournament.
Do you like Austin Wally and Bryson Miller in this weight as well to get to state?
For sure, Austin Wally, I think he's a guy who no doubt is going to be able to get through to the state tournament. I think it's a matter of how healthy Bryson Miller is. He's been kind of up and down this year, right? And him down at 182. I think maybe I don't know how much he's cutting to get there, but he injury defaulted, so I'm not sure if there's an injury there to worry about. So he's definitely has the harder path, I think, to get to that top 6 to go to Hershey.
195 pounds. The story actually came on Friday night. Dominic Fundy, a best center, had to injury default in his match against John Vargo in the section final, and then he had to turn around and had to injury default then in the first round of the WPIAL tournament because he had to wrestle in that opening round. So therefore he drops in the consolations. Question on Saturday was he going to return? He did not. Fundy's season is over. His high school career is over, as well as a knee injury that caused Fundy to end up injury defaulting out. John Vargo dominated the tournament in the WPIAL, 2 falls and a technical fall, and he's looking very strong right now. Jeff Magan was able to make it to the final with a pair of falls, but really this weight just totally different without Fundy in it.
For sure. I mean, it was 100% different without him there, and he was one of the top guys in the state. And it's a shame. It's a real shame to see a guy. You don't want to see him, end that career like he did. I mean, this is a guy who last year had the same, set of circumstances essentially, and he had such high promise for the rest of his career. So nothing to hang his hat on. He's done really well for himself. It's just a shame he couldn't get healthy and get ready to go. Jeff Magan, as you mentioned, making it to the finals, but how about John Vargo, right? I mean, he falls his way in the final, so really impressed with, like you said, he's kind of taking it up another notch.
And he's fortunate to be on the top half of the bracket as the top seed. Hunter Tremaine and Colby Franklin both on the bottom half.
Yeah, when I saw those brackets come out, I was like, "Ooh, he's lucky he's not," because I think Colby Franklin is one of the guys that is going to be one of the top guys in the state. I think he may be wrestling in the finals of the state tournament come Saturday night. So Colby Franklin on the bottom half with Hunter Tremaine. I think Vargo, that sets him up nicely on that top half.
Any other guys from the WPIAL? Do you think Jeff Magan can make it out of here?
I think he has. I like his first round draw with Brady Bobercheck, but I don't think
have Franklin.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to. I don't think he's going to get past Franklin. So it's a matter of how he can wrestle back. But yeah, for sure, I think he has a shot to punch through.
220 pounds, Dom DeLuca of Derry, 2 falls, and then a major decision win over state qualifier Connor Forrest of Hopewell. Forrest, your number 2 there. Jacob Baker, best center, number 3. 3 guys you got to like, though, here in the Southwest region.
Yeah, and you look at the Southwest region, Dom DeLuca's your top seed here, and that 32-1 record. His only losses to Braxton Amos in the Powerade final. So, he's number 1 in the state for a reason. He was a runner-up at the state tournament last year. So he's on the same side as John Croft from Central Cambria, but I really do like DeLuca's he's been lights out this year, man. Other than that one lone loss to the top guy in the nation, he's looked pretty darn good here. So Dwayne Nisley from Chestnut Ridge is also on that bottom half. Connor Forrest, yeah, I think he's definitely going to get through. I don't know about Jacob Baker. I'm reserving comment on Baker. I want to see him a little bit more before I say whether they can make it. I think him and I think you look at the top guys here, DeLuca for sure and Connor Forrest, I think have obviously legitimate shots to make it.
Yeah, I know Forrest ends up getting major decision, but I think a lot of people forget that he was a state qualifier in AAA last year, so he's definitely someone who could make a difference here in the Southwest region. 285 pounds, Riley Kemper of Burgestown, 3 falls to win the title. David Schufert of Valley had a tough tournament. He had to go to overtime to beat Gerald Comedy of Washington, and then Kemper just took it to Schufert and gets the fall and wins the title.
Was he up in that match before he got that
Kemper
fall?
Was, yeah.
What was do you remember the score?
I don't.
Was? But it wasn't like,
up, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really impressive win for Riley Kemper. Not that I'm surprised by it, because I'm not, but he's a junior going against one of the largest and one of the most dominant heavyweights in the state with Dave Schufert. So, Gerald Comedy, I mean, he impressed me in that championship round, but then, he loses to Miles in the third and fourth place match. So, Riley Kemper's got to be the story here, though. I really am impressed with the way he wrestled.
Yeah, especially after losing to Comedy in the Tri-County tournament. To come back, he beats him in the section final, and then being able to take it to Mitch Miles of Laurel, and then also take it to Shuford as well. It's definitely a great performance by him. He ends up going in as the number 3 seed, though, in the Southwest region.
Yeah, the top seed is Jake Ryan from Mount Union. He's a state medalist from a year ago, bumping up to 285. He's 32-1 on the season. And Dalton Cease from Chestnut Ridge is the second seed because he got a big upset over Jalen Stevens from Myersdale. So you look at that top half, and it's stacked because you got Jake Ryan, and you also have Jalen Stevens, who's been ranked as high as number 3 in the state, and then Dave Schufert. So it's most likely going to be a Schufert and Stevens quarterfinal match, which is a big one because Stevens actually owns a win over Schufert already. But I like where Kemper is down on that bottom half. I think Kemper's sitting. I'm really happy he got that third seed because he's looking pretty good on that bottom half.
You look at the teams around the WPIAL and the guys who are going. Burrell sends the most with 10 wrestlers headed to the Southwest region. McGuffey ends up finishing with 8 guys going. Best Center with 6, Freedom with 6, Quaker Valley with 6, and Elizabeth Forward with 6 as well. Burgettstown and Derry both with 5. As far as our discussion we had last week, Jeff, about the section championships, and I didn't get a chance to go there on Friday because I was doing a pit match, but I've heard a lot of mixed results, and I calculated the numbers as far as possible section rematches. So you have 12 possible section rematches, right? Because between semifinals, so there's a semifinal, first, and a third place match. So 4 total matches in each weight. So 12 total in each weight class. That's a total of 168. 33 rematches. Guys that wrestled on Friday wrestled again on Saturday.
So you're saying 33 individuals or 33 matches?
33 matches.
33 matches. So,
and there were also some that were like a guy finished in first in the section and third in the section. They wrestled, but they didn't wrestle the night before. So there was a bunch of that, too. But
you didn't count those, right?
No,
You're
I did
talking
not.
about head-to-head.
Head-to-head matchups, 33 occurred between guys who wrestled on Friday and then they wrestled again on Saturday. As far as WPIAL rematches, guys who wrestled twice on the same day, there were 11 of those.
Wow.
Now, that's going to happen from time to time, but the way that bracket falls, it happens a lot more often than you think.
Right.
Because they end up wrestling in like a quarterfinal and then for 5th and 6th.
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to do those numbers because that puts it into perspective. You said out of how many matches, potential rematches?
Well, there could have been a total of 168. That's 12 total rematches happening in one weight class. Because you figure 2 semifinals, a first place and a third place in the section tournaments. That's 4 matches times 3 sections. That's 12.
Right.
That's impossible to have 12 rematches.
Sure, but to have 33 different individual matches where you wrestled the same guy
2 days in a row.
2 days in a row. I think that's saying something there. And not only that, but you mentioned just the fact that 11 matches were in the same day.
Same day.
No, now those are all had to be on the second day, right? The WPIAL tournament.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there wasn't. There actually was a couple rematches on the same day on Friday too. I didn't count those, but there was I noticed as I was counting the numbers from Friday to Saturday that there were a few guys that wrestled twice the same day on Friday.
Wow, that's more surprising to me than anything else. I mean, you would think that would be avoided. We did get a lot of good feedback here, so I guess there are a few. There's like 4 or 5 people that listen to the podcast
right.
for sure. No, there was. I appreciate everyone who reached out to us and gave us their opinion on the WPIAL section and district tournament in the AA class, and I got a lot of good constructive criticism, not criticism, but a lot of good feedback, just saying, I understand this point, I understand that. A lot of openness to either one, and I think most people that responded gave a valid point for each one. So
what are you coming away with in your thoughts?
Well, after you handed me those numbers about,
let me give you one more first before you give me your thoughts.
Okay, well then this might be the cherry on top.
The amount of kids who would be in each weight class, right? Because that might be an issue. Too many kids in the weight classes, so they're all in the 20s. 106 had 20. 1 at 113, 22, 22 for 120, 23 for 126, 20. They're all in order, guys. So the 19, 23, 23, 21, 20, 18, 17, 17, 18.
So what would be the largest bracket? 23?
23.
I mean, that's That's a 24-man bracket. That's not
the state tournament is a 20-man bracket.
Right.
So you're not really a 23-man bracket is not asking a lot. Now there were a lot of scratches, but every year there's a lot of scratches in the section tournament.
You factor those in, but then you're not everyone's getting a medal, Greg.
Right, but you get 7. So out of there's a total of 23. 7 of those guys are getting a medal. Even though there's some that would only had 17 kids in a bracket. Yeah, 7 of those kids would have got a medal.
Your chances are pretty good to medal there. So, yeah, I mean, after hearing those, I'm still very much against the fact that we break it down between sections and districts. If the largest bracket that you came up with was 23, there's no reason. I don't see why you wouldn't have a 24-man bracket and just run it like Powerade. I mean, I think you run it exactly like you do Powerade and just it's more than capable of happening and being able to be done. So
they do Powerade in 2 days, and that has 40 kids in a weight probably
at least, yeah.
So you're talking 23 kids at most. Now this and what also gets me too is they beg and beg for these sections. Those kids that they're begging and begging for, a lot of them are scratching on Friday. So why are they making a special tournament?
Is there anyone specifically you can say what?
No, there's no. You mean individual kids?
Yeah,
No, I don't know who all was in those brackets. I just know from what I heard on Friday there were a lot of scratches, a lot of kids who did not show for the sections, and those were the kids that were supposed to be making this tournament for, is to get them to participate more.
Yeah. I mean, I still don't buy it that the sections and WPIAL tournament should be different and separate. I just think it's redundant, and I think you're punishing. I think you're punishing the kids a little bit too. Especially if I'm one of those 33 guys. Listen, I don't want to wrestle the same guy twice in 2 days. I mean,
he ends up getting hurt, but can you imagine Dom Fundy and John Vargo wrestling twice?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Those guys would have. Those two guys are two guys that probably would have wrestled. Definitely would have been in the WPIAL final without a doubt. Could have ended up wrestling again in the Southwest region for all you know. If one of them upsets Colby Franklin, it's one of those things where these guys could have been wrestling 2-3 week times in a row.
Yeah,
it's unnecessary. And how did that knee injury was that affected? Was that because of what happened with Vargo, or was it just one of those freak things that would happen with any match? It's hard to say.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's definitely hard to say, but I think the proof is in the numbers there that it's not only is it feasible to run it as singly as just a district tournament, but it probably makes sense because the brackets, like you said, 17 people in one bracket, okay, that's pretty easy to do and pretty easy to handle. So, and you're not eliminating the fact that 7 of those guys are all earning medals. So.
Yeah, even in that 7 out of 17, it's a little under half of those guys that are going on. Moving on to the AAA sections with the brackets out. Section 1, obviously, usually the most competitive section. What 3 weight classes are you most looking forward to in Section 1?
Oh man, Section 1. There's a lot of good action in Section 1, having teams such as Franklin Regional, Latrobe, Greensburg-Salem, Kiski, and Hempfield. But there's quite a few here that I'm anxious to see. One of them has to be 113 pounds with Kyle Burkholder and Finn Solomon and Angelico from Latrobe, and even throw in Evan Whiteside from Gateway. So 113 is one I'm keeping my eye on, and 120 as well. Curtis Phipps and Garrett Thompson. You got Ethan Bergnick and Dom Giordano. So you see a lot of talent there.
One thing I'm looking at is 132 pounds. That is probably the deepest weight in this one. Sammy Starr coming in as a number 6 seed. You got Gabe Willishow at the top, Zach McCann at 2, John Altieri at 3, Perkins at 4, Jared Breen at 5. That is 6 quality guys, and only 4 are getting out. Yeah,
you stole that right from me here, Greg.
I had to.
I don't know why you did. I didn't want to jump off the gate and say 132, but you just stole.
It's the best weight.
Well, sure. On paper, yeah, it's no doubt. It's probably the deepest weight of all 4 sections too. Gabe Willishow, returning state medalist, one of the top guys in the state. Justin Perkins, a guy who's been up and down, but I think he can really turn it on and compete well. He's so strong. He's so athletic. When he's on, he's on. But when he's off, he's off. So John Altieri, as you mentioned, another guy I like. Sammy Starr. That's a first-round matchup, John Altieri and Sammy Starr, and Zach McCann as well. So, yeah, you're right. This is going to be a quality tournament or quality weight here at 132.
Another weight that could be interesting also is 195 pounds. You have Braden Roskowski, but also John Myers and Justin Kramer in the mix as well. Those guys should have a nice semifinal to get into Roskowski in the final.
Another weight I'm looking at is 138. Nick Coy, Ty Linsenbigler from Hempfield, Nick Coy from Penn Trafford. Those two are two of the top guys in the state. You also have Dewan Herzog from Greensburg-Salem, Mason Spears from Franklin Regional, who is quietly putting together a really nice season for himself. So can he challenge, one of those top perennial guys like Nick Coy or Ty Linsenbigler? So 38's another one. 45, Jack Pletcher drops down from 52 to 45, 4 sections, and he's on the top half with Ian Ewing. Chase Krantz from Norwin, a guy who's been down as low as 38, and Enzo Meraki from Kiski. Those are 3 young guys there, 3 freshmen, Pletcher, Krantz, and Meraki, who all 3, I think, can really make some noise for the next 4 years.
195 should also be a good one. Braden Roskowski of Kiski, your top seed, but John Myers of Greensburg-Salem and Justin Kramer of Hempfield, they'll meet in the semi for a chance to wrestle Roskowski. And
likewise at 220, Ryan Reinsman from Norwin, a junior, he's a top seed. Trent Patrick from Greensburg-Salem is also up there. Jack Diltz from Kiski is there. No Troy Kuhn. So Jack Diltz is the one going. Dylan Ferretti. 4 solid guys here out of Section 1, and also at heavyweight, Isaiah Vance, Bill McKenzie from Greensburg-Salem, Stone Joseph, and Zach Cipher from Norwin make up a pretty solid core of wrestlers at 285. So, Section 1 is always sort of that deepest, and it's no different here in 2019.
You look at Section 2, a good weight class will be at 120 pounds. Bryce Wilkes gets the top seed. Logan Saliga, number 2. Cale Bakaizo, number 3. And Chad Ozias of Connellsville coming in at number 4 as a freshman.
Yeah, that 120 bracket was very interesting. Bryce Wilkes is a guy who I think is poised to do well here. But Chad Ozias, he's been as low as 106. And look at his record. He's 16-1. But Saliga is I just was really impressed with him at both Powerade and Escape the Rock. So 120 in Section 2 is one that I'm very much looking forward to.
Any other weights that you're looking at in Section 2?
Yeah, 126, Jared Kessler from Connellsville is a guy who I've been keeping an eye on ever since he really opened our eyes at the surge. But Sean McKinney from Mount Lebanon is on that top half, and he's able to hang with just about anyone. Will Kale from Peters Township is there. Mikey Zakar from Thomas Jefferson is also there. So looking forward to that weight. 138 is not a bad weight class either. Dylan Ross is there. Parker Leora from Bethel Park and Brady Sherlock from West Mifflin. Probably one of the outside of 126, I would say maybe 145 is the one that intrigues me the most, because you have Jackson Gray and Colin Franks is back. Colin Franks only has 2 matches under his belt. Colin Franks has been he's been a starter, I think, for at least the last 3 years, right, until this year when he was out. Jackson Gray's really turned it on this year. He's really turned the corner in his junior season, so I'm excited to see how he would do maybe against a guy like Jacob Duncan from Ringgold and Brendan Finnerty from TJ. He's had a terrific season, so I don't know how healthy and how in shape Colin Franks is at 2-0, but this had potentially some good, because Jackson Gray's the top ranked guy in the region right now at 145. So this has big implications for that.
160 pounds could be interesting. Hunter Milligan, the top seed. Max Stout comes in at number 2. Donovan McMillan there at number 3. So you got some strong wrestlers there. 140, 170, next one up. Jeff Marker, your top seed. Grant Walnoa, number 4. Logan Hoffman, a freshman from Bell Vernon. How's he going to do in between with Cole McCorkindale also there?
182, the other Stout, yeah. Luke Stout, right? 32-1, state medalist, and Scott Joel from Bell Vernon, and Brandon Matthews, right? Barry Matthews is the second seed, 28-1 on the season. He's been as low as 170 this year. Scott Joel is a guy who's 27-5, returning state medalist. He's going to West Virginia. Luke Stout, one of the top juniors in the state, he's at the top half. So it's not often you have 2 state medalists at the same weight class, but you do here at 182 in Section 2.
Are you surprised Matthews got the seed over Joel?
Not looking at it.
Doesn't make a big difference.
It doesn't. Looking at the seeding criteria, it's not a huge. I'm not shocked. If I would seed it, obviously Joel would be second just because of the fact he's a returning state medalist. But if you look at the body of work for the season, you look at records, which I believe the seeds do. He's 28-1. Matthews is so. and I wouldn't look past Luke Montgomery either, Bethel Park at 195. Max Shaw's really the top guy there, but I think Luke Montgomery is someone who can hang with the best here. So we could see a potential rematch. Jake Slinger, who's undefeated at heavyweight, and Nathan Hoagland from Mount Lebanon. These two have met with Slinger winning that one, but could see a potential rematch. That could be a rematch for next week too.
Go over to Section 3, 106, already a good match. Could potentially be in the final. Dylan Chappell of Seneca Valley, Dylan Coy of North Allegheny.
Yeah, and Coy, I think he's done well this season, but he's taken some losses that I think, he lost to Mason Prinky from Connellsville. So if he really wants to be competing, he's got to show that he can keep it close with Chappell. And listen, Chappell, he doesn't really blow guys out. He just wins. He finds a way to win. He's so hard to score on. So I'm not saying – I don't think Chappell's going to come out here and blow him away by major, but I think he could have a convincing 5-2, 5-1 win over Dylan Coy. But you're right. This should be a good one.
Any other weights in Section 3 really catching your eye?
I have a good time just going through and looking at the potential matchups. 120, Ryan Sullivan, Kellen Laffey. Laffey's a guy who I like. Josh Campbell's finally back for Hampton at 120. We'll see how healthy he can be. 126 is a little bit more wide open. Zach Wright is your top seed, but Freddie Junko from North Allegheny is the second, and Jeremy McPherson from North Hills. I think all three of those guys are more than capable of doing well. Obviously, Sammy Hilgis at 32 is the favorite, but I'm curious to see how Jason Geyer can hang Max Stediford, see if he can do well for himself there. 138 is probably the deepest weight class, in my opinion, in Section 3, because you have Nathan Luquez from Pine Richland. You also have Ian Scarberry from Shaler, who we know has had some big wins this season, and Drew Vlasnik from Seneca Valley. So, those guys are kind of one of the three of the top guys in the region, not just the section here. So I'm very curious to see how those go. And same with 145, Antonio Emilio and Stephen Green, Avi Bursick from Fox Chapel, and Tyler Kokak from Hampton. Those are all four guys that I think could find ways to the state tournament here. So, and Kokak's a guy who has made it to the state tournament previously. So that's another good weight class. So is 152 with Cole Spencer and Nick Montalbano from Seneca Valley. Cole Spencer, returning state medalist, is a sophomore, and see if he can kind of get back on track there at 152 pounds. Section 3 has a lot of talent. I like a lot of these weight classes. Even 95, Justin Hart and Logan Harmon. I think that could be a potential good finals match as well. So, Section 3 definitely behind me, and like maybe Section 1, Section 3, two of the top ones in my opinion.
Go over to Section 4 and some matches you may or weight classes you might be looking at. One in particular, to me, 126, Jordan Waters of West Allegheny, your top seed. And then you have Kenny Heyman of Cam McMillan, number 2, Gianni Martini of Trinity, number 3. And then you have Colton Stone King of Waynesburg there at number 4. So a deep weight and some really high-level guys at 126.
Yeah, I was really impressed when I saw 26 and seeing all these guys fall into place here. Waters is a guy who I think, is one of the top guys, but Kenny Heyman has had a heck of a season. Probably one of the most improved wrestlers of the year across any district, I think, is Kenny Heyman. And I'll go on record saying that. I think he's absolutely just done amazing for himself this year. One note I want to mention here, Greg, is Costa Moore from Canamac dropped to 106. That's big. He's wrestled as high as maybe 126, 120. I'm surprised that he was able to make it down to 106. The sophomore was, and he had to beat Jacob Hout out to make that spot. And Costa Moore, I'm curious if he's not completely sucked down, he could throw a wrench into things on the regional level.
And he'll be the number 2 seed, and Tyler Diggins of Moon is your number 1. Another note, too, 120, Jacob Gardner not in the lineup for Canamac.
Yeah, and we kind of anticipated that after seeing him go down at the team District 7 tournament. Trey Howard and Tanner O'Haley could potentially meet again at 145. Those guys have gone back and forth. And same with the 152, Luca Augustine and Eli Brinsky, two top guys in the WPIAL. But don't sleep on Jacob Dunlap from Ambridge, who's 16-1. The big one for me, I think, is Ty McGeary and Colby Morris. If these two meet in the finals, I think that's going to be a really good match. Ty McGeary is a returning state medalist, but Colby Morris has looked well this year. So I'm excited to see how he does. Garrett Ninehouse is going to be down at 170. Do you see Garrett Ninehouse committed to Purdue? He gave a verbal commitment to Purdue and Coach Ursuland out there. I think it's a great pickup for them, for the Boilermakers. AJ Shop, a former PA guy, is out there as well. So very, very excited. Congratulations to Garrett Ninehouse.
Officially down to 170.
Officially down to 170. So, I mean, a lot of people were saying, oh, when's he going down? And, here he is. And another guy going down is Cole Whitmer from Trinity.
Were you surprised by this one?
I wasn't completely. I talked to Coach Powell at Powerade about this, and he's like, there's so much of a logjam at 182. But having Garrett go down to 170 sort of opens up, and Whitmer, he didn't really have to cut a ton to 182. So, I mean, I like Whitmer. I like the way he wrestles, and I hope he finds a way to make it to the States, because my dad will be super excited to have a Trinity Hiller in the state tournament. But he's going to have a tough task if he makes it to the finals, because he would have Noah Tustin possibly in the semis and Nico Flatty from West Allegheny in these in the finals. So it's. Section 4, you have your perennial powers, with Candimac and Waynesburg, but you throw in maybe like a South Fayette team as well, and Chartiers Valley and West Allegheny, and you have a nice little section here.
All 4 going on this Saturday, and top 4 going on to the WPIAL Championships, which will be wrestled next Friday and Saturday, with the top 4 going to Hershey. So should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, it should be. I mean, that's why we're here, and that's why we love doing what we're doing. And this is it, man. This is a month long of a lot of good wrestling. We got sections, districts, regional, states, the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic. We got NCAAs. We're nonstop here. And
the rankings are now official, right? Because we know where the weight class of every guy.
Yeah, tonight was the last night. The last district I was waiting for is District 2, and we got those. So now the weights are official. And, we have updated rankings for you. We have College Podcast. We have Hayden Hidley and Trent Hidley, the Hidley brothers. We had both them on for the College Podcast. That is a treat. That's what I call podcast gold right there, because that's an episode you're going to go back and listen to a few times, because those two are just great for the sport of wrestling. So, we got a lot coming at you at PAPowerWrestling.com. We got a whole lot of good stuff coming in. We got our new shirts in for the Nationals, Our State, Our Sport shirts. So make sure you go on. Limited access to those shirts. So if you want one, don't wait around for Nationals. Get it now, because we're not going to place another order. We got to get them in now. So, a lot of stuff going on here at PA Power.
And you get them in now, because a couple weeks from now, busy with the wrestling season, getting into Hershey. So make sure you get it taken care of right away. And make sure you stay with us throughout this entire weekend on Twitter, on Facebook, on the website, because we're going to have results not only from all the districts, but especially Southwest Region and AA, and then all 4 sections for the WPIAL.
Absolutely, Greg. It'll be fun.
I want to thank Christian Clutter of McGuffey for joining us on the show. From our partner, Jeff Upson, I'm Greg Warnock. Thanks for listening in to War Up on WPIAL.